So just quickly, just to introduce to my far left here, we have Brian McCarthy, the Home Delivery Director for Home Retail Group. Brian joined Home Retail Group in August 2006 as Head of Distribution. He took the group role of Home Delivery Director in April 2009, supporting all the home delivery operations for Homebase, Argos and Habitat. Vast experience in the retail sector. Brian's worked previously with Asda Walmart and supported particularly the BT transformation, or the business transformation, sorry, under the Walmart banner. Brian commenced his works with Christian Salverson, where he worked with such retailers as M&S, House of Fraser, Asda, etc. So welcome, Brian. Al, to my right here. Al, Head of Multichannel at Mountain Warehouse. Al has been trading worldwide in multiple e-commerce businesses since 2002. Since joining Mountain Warehouse in 2012, he's been responsible for a complete overhaul of the courier's Mountain Warehouse use and also the implementation of MetaPack, which I know he feels very passionate about as well. He's also switched on delivery to over 100 countries and grown their international business now via 18 new marketplaces. Al's also a multi-channel e-commerce consultant for We Are Pentagon, and specialises in marketplaces such as eBay, Amazon, and clients include international brands such as BMW, Ann Summers, Sports Direct, etc., and also recently Boohoo.com. Yep. So welcome to Al. And finally, to my immediate left, if my pages are in the right order, we have Glen. Glen's Chief Marketing Officer at Fruugo.com. Glen's a noted thought leader in e-commerce and has written for many publications, including Retail Week, etc. He speaks around the world at events such as Retail Week, eCommerce Expo London, European Online Retail Forum, etc. And Glen's actually listed on esellermedia.com as one of the top 20 e-commerce professionals you should follow on Twitter. So for all of you Twitter people out there, he's alongside the guys from ASOS, Amazon, Tesco, Shopify, etc. In terms of Fruugo, Fruugo.com, it's a B2C global marketplace selling world's products to world shoppers, and it empowers retailers to sell cross-border, converting languages, prices, product information, etc. So welcome, Glen.
Thank you.
So in this session, we're going to dig into the key question. What I would ask as well, we do want to get some audience participation from you guys as well, so if you've got some questions that you want to ask, although we just want to go through the panelist thoughts first of all. If you have got any questions, then please, if you do raise your hand, if we spot you, then we'll be incorporating you in that. But it would be great to get some real interaction, particularly with a slightly smaller group today. Use that opportunity. So, first of all, Brian, can I start with you? What are your key thoughts?
Thank you, Dave. Good morning, everybody. It's a big question. And I think listening to some of the questions that are coming out this afternoon, I might have liked to be on a different panel. But no, in truth, I think, and the word's been used yesterday throughout, as you mentioned, it's about convenience. Home delivery has been around for a long, long time and will continue to be so, and is a very convenient solution for some, but not necessarily for everybody. And I think, indeed, if you look at various analysts' predictions and everything else, if you look at the IMRG, their prediction is that actually home delivery will be superseded by click and collect and store collections by 2017. But I guess the emphasis I'd put on that's one view. And if you look at it in terms of what's it all about, well, actually, convenience is about life cycle. Convenience is about you today and what's convenient for you, because what's convenient for you isn't necessarily for me, dependent upon family circumstances, dependent upon what I want to try and do. So some people will be able to take deliveries to home because they're at home or they've got flexible times. But I think also there is something upon us all as employers to consider what is our attitude to delivery to the workplace. Because in most instances, it is a case of, if the employer is not prepared to embrace that, then the inconvenience is greater on you as an individual. And then it probably brings me to the point about speed. And speed comes up in much discussion about it is going to be a key battleground in many areas. And again, I would probably put the point down as a view as opposed to a definitive, is that speed is definitely important. And without a shadow of a doubt, it is expensive. And whilst it's a battleground that we all play in, I guess if you look at the uptake on it, it is not significant at this moment in time. But if you don't have a speedy offer, potentially you're sending people elsewhere. So I guess there is that balance in respect of where you go. And I think the final point I make, and I come back to when we talk about home delivery itself, the doorstep experience. So as we've all grown our volumes, we want to own that last mile. Because the customers who now shop online, sometimes their only experience of us is that smiling face, or maybe not necessarily the smiling face, that's representative of your business. And some of us are lucky enough that we actually can execute our own delivery. Others, where we use third parties, we're reliant upon that doorstep experience to get customer engagement and get customers to repeat with us. And many of us are looking to see what is the cost of, both from a future customer loyalty perspective as well as the economics of doing that ourselves. And that certainly is a challenge to us all.
Okay, thank you. Can I just turn to you now, Al? Your thoughts, your initial thoughts?
I think it's very important to pay attention to speed as well, particularly with international deliveries. It's becoming more and more important. I tend to specialise in marketplaces, so I trade on places like eBay and Amazon. Not just eBay and Amazon, but multiple marketplaces worldwide. And marketplaces are very innovative, but they're also very transparent. So pretty much every marketplace you work with will have feedback at stake. So the courier you use and the service you provide is going to be rated very closely by the customer and very visibly. So you need to get it right. But marketplaces do provide a very good opportunity to grow your business through international delivery. They're also offering a lot of innovation at the moment. eBay are bringing out eBay Now, which in the States is delivery within an hour to certain cities, and that will be coming to the UK this year. Amazon are going to be, well, they're already offering Sunday delivery, and they're very much at the forefront of forcing e-commerce retailers to keep up. They're also offering a low-cost, low-risk opportunity to test the water into new markets. But it's important, in my opinion, to use track delivery if you're going to sell internationally. I've tried with and without, and some countries you'll get away without sending stuff tracked, but by and large, the little extra that you pay for tracking is definitely worth it. And there are enough couriers out there now that will offer a track solution to a large number of newer destinations that will allow you to be competitive. My tracking or track delivery to Germany is very, very similar to what I pay for the UK now. So it's quite easy to compete and offer a much better solution. But you are going to be rated at the end of the day. And you're rated on two things on eBay, for instance. You're rated not only on the post and packing charge, but you're also rated on the dispatch time. Now, dispatch time isn't really the measure, because what the customer is measuring you on is delivery time. So you need to get that piece right. I'd also say that marketplaces offer you a great way to establish your brand into a new market, even where your brand may not have particularly an established presence already. Certainly you may not be a recognised brand, but it's definitely possible to expand through marketplaces without having been established first.
Okay, that's great. Glen, can we turn to you?
Yeah, sure. I'll continue on the international theme. Why not? So we operate in 23 countries, and we do have a bit of insight into trading cross-border. And one of the key things that I've learned is that consumers really value availability over speed. when you're buying something from Australia, from a UK retailer, for instance, it's more important that they can buy exactly the item that they want to buy than it turning up next day, for instance. Of course, it's almost impossible to do that anyway, but they value availability over speed. And price is absolutely key, and is a huge driver, I think, delivery for international as well. You know, the retailers that are on our platform that do particularly well cross-border are those that provide free shipping internationally. So consumers are clearly driven by price, and they're clearly, for us at least, driven by availability. And in fact, speed really is secondary for us, but perhaps that's because 75% of our trade is cross-border, and therefore, you know, I guess the country-to-country kind of purchase doesn't happen too often, only 25% at the time. But putting my kind of futurist hat on, thinking in terms of the future, I think the retailers that are really going to win over the next 5 years are going to be the ones that think about providing true real-time visibility of parcels and packages across the world. You know, the technology is there for us to do it. You know, GPS tracking, you know, beacons, NFC. You know, consumers just want to have the information. They don't mind a parcel turning up, a few days later, as long as they know exactly where it is. And of course, you know, many couriers and delivery organisations are already doing that. But I think that we need to take things to a whole new level. You know, Stuart Rose mentioned yesterday about mobile being absolute key to the story, and I think that we really do need to empower consumers to have true visibility of their parcels. I mean, even, you know, lo-fi technology like SMS, you know, to be informed. I think it's really important. So I think that in terms of the future, I think technology, sensors, all those type of things are going to really play a key part. And I think that consumers really do value, you know, visibility, you know, really do value visibility over speed. Yeah.
It's quite interesting, isn't it, that we're in a place now where service was something, one of the first things a lot of retailers, and people who've been around for some time, I guess, will think of this. Operating stores, as many of you have done, one of the first things that people look to when they want to cut costs within an organisation is looking at staff. And one of the first things, certainly my experience over 30 years, that suffers in stores can be the service in stores. So, you know, the manager's there and he starts carving out the number of cashiers and the queues get a bit bigger and all these kind of things. Just to ask the question generally amongst you guys, clearly there is a price for product and clearly there is a price for service. We're in a place now where, you know, we talk about all the different technologies, we talk about all of the things. Who's going to pay for this service? Do you think customers are prepared to pay for this? Are they prepared to combine the two things together where, for example, it's the lowest price product, but I am going to have to pay X, Y and Z as part of my decision tree for getting that product? Do I pick it up? Do I do click and collect or whatever? How do we, as retailers, how do we all competitively deal with that? How do we get competitive advantage in that?
I think it's a brilliant question, and I can only proffer a view based on what my own experiences are. I guess the thing comes back down to convenience and choice is down to the circumstance. If I want something fast and I want it quickly, I'll pay for it because it's urgent for me and everything else like that. But we do as consumers expect value. And with the explosion in the internet and mobile technology, price comparisons are everything that we do. So brand loyalty and shopping loyalty has diminished quite significantly, and it is all about the service. And I guess, yes, in truth, we have to get the customers to pay certain elements of it because we can't afford it all ourselves. But equally, they want to feel they got value. And I guess in most instances, it's rather like the restaurant experience. If the service is good and the food is good, you're prepared to pay for it, and you don't necessarily remember that the bill was whatever it was. But if the service is bad and the food is average, you will know what the bill is and you won't be happy to pay for it. So I guess there is a balance in there. And each of us with different socioeconomic groups shopping with us have got to look at what our customers are prepared to pay for and what level of service they're looking for, and therefore condition the service accordingly.
Do you think there'll ever be a service war? I mean, we see price crashes. We see where, you know, we're already seeing people like Tesco and some of these guys suddenly offering, you know, all sorts of different, not just technical advances in terms of, you were talking about Amazon, the one delivery and all these things. Do you think we'll see a place where not only are people competing on price very aggressively, they're also competing on service?
I think it's already happening. So it's definitely already there. My experience recently over improving service and cost was MetaPack. By putting in MetaPack, we actually saved 2 members of staff on the picking side, or it's actually on the packing side, where they were previously used for quite a manual task to choose which courier to use, to upgrade stuff if it didn't fit in a certain courier's offering, basically. And that task that's now automated hasn't meant that we've lost those staff. We've just redeployed them, and we're able to get stuff out the door quicker. So it's become about service for us, and we're able to improve our offering by putting in a solution that automates what was previously a manual task. But around the big providers, Amazon are offering fantastic services through FBA, for instance. So if you're an Amazon Prime customer, you know that you're going to get that product next day. It's free within your subscription. Okay, you do pay for that subscription, but it's a Prime offering, and it's a service that people are willing to pay for. And I don't know about you, but I last year pretty much bought all my Christmas shopping on Amazon because I could rely on it. It was there, it was Prime, it was next day, and I think the service war has already started.
So in terms of the service itself, I don't know if you want to jump in on this one as well, but in terms of the service thing itself, obviously we talked about service, we talked about the transparency of it with customers, we've talked about the fact that you've got to offer the customers every option, it's got to be low cost. I mean, is all of this doable in such a variable place? And can you clearly show your USP, if you like, against all of the other people?
Crikey, I think we've got one of the toughest jobs, really, because we don't, right now, we actually don't touch a parcel at all, because we're a marketplace. So our retailers dispatch directly to the consumer. Now, for us to become serious at providing, the extra level of service like Amazon is, for instance, we will need to think about a fulfillment service ourselves, and that's something that we've given a lot of thought to. And in fact, it's funny that you mentioned MetaPack, because MetaPack are just one of the players that enable retailers to be able to offer significant choice. If you want to be able to offer a Collect Plus service, and you want to be able to offer a Dropbox service, and you want to be able to offer international delivery methods, then perhaps a service like MetaPack is a viable solution. I think choice is really key for consumers, and that's something we've learned, and that's something that we're addressing right now. And I think the service in terms of delivery, I think also sits very firmly in terms of how you approach customer services as well. So we recently installed a new ticketing system for dealing with inquiries from all over the world in all the different languages, called Zendesk. And we've reduced our tickets, or at least our inquiries, by about 80%, just by providing the information in a knowledge base where consumers can help themselves. So we've reduced the amount of inquiries. The inquiries that we do get in answered same day, which previously we would take a couple of days. In fact, during some of our busy periods, it may even take 3 days, but now we're answering every single inquiry within the first day, which I think is, a very key point for us, that we need to focus on service, because if you don't focus on service, then what's our USP in the market?
Fair point. Do you think there'll become a point, though, where with all of these options and methods and all these, do you think there'll become a point where it starts to polarise? How many different options and variables is sustainable? Because if you look at the potential number of variables with any customer who's shopping, we've gone in a very short period of time from we'll deliver your washing machine sometime between Tuesday and Friday, 7 a.m. and 11 p.m., down to we're now hearing things like Amazon doing it, 1 hour and things like that. But how many, at some point, is this going to polarise into, or do we just keep going and going and going? Where do we go with that, Brian?
It's another brilliant question, and again, I can only proffer a view based on personal experience and what customers tell us. I think probably the most important thing in all of this, we've talked about convenience, is certainty. So when we talk to our customers, they say, tell me when you're going to turn up, and turn up when you tell me you're going to turn up. Don't ring me on the day and tell me, oops, I can't make it because I'm really hacked off, because I've taken time off work, I've put my personal time into waiting for you when you've not turned up. And I guess, inevitably, the competitive space will say that you want to have options, and options will always exist. I guess we've got to be comfortable understanding where we sit on that tree, because, you know, I work in a business where we won't offer a Harrods service and can't. And we've got to be comfortable with that, because you can't be all things to all people. And if we take a look outside of this room and the level of inexperience in the customer base, they just want you to turn up. They don't know who's turning up on the door. In fact, they can't remember the logo on the vehicle or what the driver was wearing or what the driver said. They can just remember he turned up when he said he would and he gave me my parcel, or I got what I wanted or I didn't. And that's where the experience comes. And I think we have to keep that in context when we look at this.
Al, what do you think?
I think just when you think all the solutions are out there, somebody will change everything by bringing out something innovative. So Shuttle came along, but also eBay are trialling this year delivery to your mobile phone. So you don't necessarily have to tell them where you're going to be. They know where you're going to be. As long as you allow them that access through the app on your smartphone, they'll come and deliver it to you wherever you are. You don't necessarily need to be at a fixed address that you determined the day before. So you'll keep seeing new innovation. I also think Google are going to have a role to play over the next few months with certified shops. So through the tracking information that you will be able to pass to Google, they will be able to see who's doing a good job, not only in terms of a retailer, but also in terms of the couriers you use, the services you use, and they will be rating you and no doubt giving you traffic accordingly based on the service that you're providing your customers and their traffic.
Okay. Another question, I'm going to throw this open to all of you. Determining how much effort and how much money to put into all of these variables, how do we get a start point? How do we work that out? I mean, it's tough enough trying to keep up with the latest technology. You know, you're dealing with third-party providers. There are all these variables going on. But how do you, from a strategic point of view, work out, you know, what are your real opportunities? You know, what is your real key areas you're going to focus on? And how do you get some kind of gauge as to how much effort do I put into it? And also, how much money I put into it?
I mean, I could answer this at a high level, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to answer it very simply. You have to listen to the customer. That's it. You know, the customer has to come first. What is it the customer wants on your platform for your product in your markets? And unless you're listening to the customer, then you're not going to succeed. And that's what we've been focusing on.
And I think, I mean, don't get me wrong, listen to the customer, totally agree. There's also another piece that says, if you look at a lot of successful organisations, actually, they haven't, that success isn't just based on listening to the customer, it's about the fact they've thought for the customer and come up with something that the customer didn't even know that they wanted. So, for example, I'm sure, you know, X years ago when the internet didn't exist, I mean, certainly I wasn't sat there thinking, you know what, we really do need an internet. You know, I'm going to put on my feedback form, internet required, it would be really good. I could put it. How do we go to that next level? How do we come up ourselves with this innovation? How do we determine what that is?
I know that Henry Ford apparently said, if I listened to my customers, I would have built them a faster horse. And I think I think it's really an excuse by a lot of marketeers to say, oh no, we should be leading the way. Our ideas, you know, our consumers should you know, follow our lead. But actually, I think in e-commerce, I think most retailers are behind. I mean, we certainly are. And we're trying to play catch up with what consumers really want. So again, I'll hammer that point, listen to customers. You know, we could innovate with a new service and it could just die death. I mean, the thing is you can think big, but you have to start small. And if you have a hypothesis, test it straight away, get it into production, get it in front of customers, get feedback. Because I've seen too many large startups fail as a result of putting all their eggs into one basket.
Brian, what's your thoughts on that? Listen to the customer.
It's a real one. I'm going to look at my notes for a second because I was just reading a statistic this morning that I had to look at twice to say that, you know, last year, 72% of all adults bought goods online. So that's 2013. And in 2008, the figure was 53%. And I was a bit flabbergasted, but I said, well, the internet's been around longer than that, and we've been doing stuff and everything else. And I guess, you know, my view is, I think you're asking the question of the wrong generation. Because I think if you sat my kids up here, they would probably give you a view in respect of, you know, what does the future hold? Where we've got to be, the point I would make is we've got to be adaptable and flexible. We've got to be able to flex fast for people's needs, and we have to contain what we're going to do in line with what the cost and affordability of it is. There is always going to be someone somewhere that will pay a premium for something. What we've got to really work out is how many will I isolate versus how many will I bring it into. And if I can afford to offer that premium service without ignoring my core customer base, then that's a good thing. You've got to look at your customer base first and look at specifically what they're asking you for and then build on it from there.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's about choice for the customer, giving the customer lots of options. eBuyer, maybe 5 years ago, were leading the way in that they had time delivery, next day delivery, economy delivery, and even a free delivery service years and years ago. And now, you know, retailers are catching up and offering that kind of thing, as well as click and collect, which is becoming ever more important in terms of letting the customer choose where they want to collect the item from, not necessarily just from one of your stores, but from lockers. And I think you'll see lockers become more and more important over the next few years, also for returns as well as for delivery. But as your question originally was about the cost, I think you need to invest in IT to reduce that cost. My solution was Metapack. It did reduce my cost, and it's made delivery more affordable, not only for the UK customers, but for the international customers as well, because it's opened up a network of new couriers that weren't previously practical for me to use.
Okay. A final quick question before we start going to the audience. Just a quick sort of straw poll. Any questions out in the audience? We'll take them shortly. We just want to see if we've got any ones that are burning at the moment. Yeah? Okay. Be with you in just 1 second. Just one final thing, just from the guys, just to try to prompt some thoughts. Offering lots of variables and portraying that to your customers simply, all the choices that are available. How do we give and deliver on this complexity, but offer it simply? So I don't want to go online and have to click 1,000 things and go through all this, and you want it from 10:30 and 2:45 and add this bit, and you know, I already find it tedious when I'm booking flights and things like that, and I don't like it. How do we get that real simplicity where actually I almost want it to be almost intuitive?
I think that's a brilliant question yet again, and I was at a conference recently where Sir Terry Leahy was doing the closing summary and everything else, and one of the points he talked about was you can offer hundreds of thousands or millions of lines in range online and be available to everybody, but if you don't provide the simple navigation tools for people to access them, they won't go there. Investment in web is phenomenal, and if I look internally within our business and what we're doing to try and we're trying to second guess and make it easy. We want you to make it as easy as possible for us, and that's where a lot of investment is going to go, because having that range and having all of those things without providing the simple tools that just says, I want a TV at this price, just show me what you've got at that price. That's where the real challenge lies.
What about your thoughts on that?
Well, we invested really heavily into merchandising very early on, and we had shopkeepers in all of our different categories. You know, we hired 200 people, 40 million euros expense of building this platform, and we got it wrong with merchandising. We found out actually that where we should have focused our energies right from the beginning was search. So actually our mission now is to do for e-commerce what Google did for search. And that's a huge mission. And I think that if you're going to invest any money in any area, invest it into search and this new term, searchandising. So think about merchandising your search results. You know, show people relevant results, but also show them results of products that are selling well in their country, that are available to them with good options. And I think if you focus and your time, energy, and budget on that one area, I think it will have a huge impact on your business. A
new word for me there, searchandising. So I think just very quickly, we'll just go to some questions. Gentlemen, just down there. Are you switched on?
It's on. It's on.
Bang it against the table. No.
It wasn't.
Not switched on. Thank you. That one is. Stuart Archbold, Archbold Logistics and Shopbox Systems Limited. Yesterday and today, some points, it's a comment and a question, some points were made about the different means of getting online to the customer. And some very innovative ideas. One which has just been repeated today is we'll deliver it to where you are. So you're at Starbucks, you've got your mobile phone, and suddenly this guy comes through the door. And then, of course, collection points, click and collection, lockers, and what have you. I think, though, we should be very careful not to try and find a one solution for everything, because surely it depends on the product. So Harrods will find it very difficult with furniture to do that. So there's one sector. You then got to look at the massive grocery sector. Am I expected to be sitting at Starbucks and a shopping trolley comes through the door? And you've got to question whether, in fact, click and collection points and lockers suits every product. Very good for parcels, very good for envelopes, but is it really good for groceries in the long term? So I think we really need to be careful not to just come up with systems which we think apply to all products and divide them up a bit.
Okay. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, I'd agree, actually. I mean, certainly there's a few couriers will just put services out there for development's sake and not necessarily because it's what the customer wants, but they've got to try new things. eBay and Amazon, for instance, Amazon with its drone, eBay with its delivery to where you are, they also use them as headline grabbers and as loss leaders to fund traffic. So quite often it's not practical or sustainable to be offering that service for every product from every retailer in every city. But for a minority of products over a certain threshold in terms of value and in certain locations, it is practical to offer it. And the demand has been there in the States. So whether that translates to over here, I don't know, but certainly we're seeing click and collect working now at local tube stations, which I think is a pretty good innovation, and definitely I see that in use every night. There's always the guy sitting there, and he's usually putting something in somebody's car. He's not just sitting there doing nothing. So there is a demand for it. So I think it's driven by demand.
Okay, I think we are closing on the time now because we're actually. Anybody else got one further question? Any one other comment before we take a final view from the guys? Okay, great. Right, if I could just ask you guys, first of all, Brian, your sort of final thought for the day on this. What would you say will be the nugget to take away from this complex?
I guess for me, I probably talk about three things, the three C's. It's about convenience, it's about certainty, and it's about choice. There is stuff that we will always have to deliver to home. So I work in a world where we deliver two-man stuff. I can't quite see people popping into shops to take a sofa home or put it on top of their car. So you've got to have the provision of that. I think the second thing is whilst we've talked about click and collect, people still like to shop, impulse purchases and everything else. And I guess how the modern store transforms itself digitally to make that experience great, to encourage people to come in is where a real challenge is. And therefore, I guess that will always continue. And then we talk about places where we talk about locker boxes and we talk about collection points. And then you see the latest innovation from Volvo where they talk about it could be delivered through a key to the boot of your car. How wonderful is that? For me, that point is each piece in moderation. And we as leaders in our field have got to, I suppose, back the big horses and determine which of the others there is a place to play in, because I believe there's space for all. We've just got to understand the cost and scale at which you invest to enable choices for customers.
Okay, thank you. Glen, final words?
I would say you have to put the customer first. And I've said it, and I've said it again, and I've said it yet again, that put the customer first and listen to the customer. I mean, when was the last time you picked up the phone and actually spoke to a customer? Our customer service team does it once a week. We down tools, we don't do anything else other than just pick up the phone and speak to customers randomly. Ask them what they thought of the experience. What can we do better? Where are we failing? You know, I go into our ticketing system regularly and have a look at tickets where customers have given us negative feedback as well as the positive feedback, and listen to that and actually reach out to them. I personally reach out to a lot of customers who come up with ideas or suggestions, or maybe even have had a negative experience. I mean, we're going through a whole redesign process for Fruugo.com right now, so in the next couple of months we'll have something completely new and fresh. And without the customers giving us the feedback, we wouldn't know what to be building.
Okay.
So I'd say customer first, absolutely vital.
Customer first. And finally, Al?
For me, I would say install MetaPack, switch on international marketplaces to expand your business. And don't just look at eBay and Amazon by any means. Look at the US, Australia, Ozon in Russia, Allegro in Poland, Rakuten in Japan, Tmall in China, and send everything tracked.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our first panel session. So if you'd like to help me in thanking the guys, and that'd be great.